this message.
Assalamu alaikum family, it's your brother Landon X. This past weekend we had two movies come out that's got people in an uproar. A movie called American Skin, and then another movie that inaccurately depicted the Nation of Islam. So the question came to my mind, not necessarily the question, but the fact that the revolution will not be televised or filmed. We're going to talk about it.
I was told to deliver this message.
Assalamu alaikum, Nation Town family. It's your brother Landon X. This is Nation Town TV Live. And as you can see, we're dealing with the topic of fact, which is the revolution will not and cannot be televised or filmed. And that's inspired by a couple of movies that dropped this past weekend. There's been a lot of uproar about it. You may have seen it. One of them was American Skin, written and directed by our brother Nate Parker, as well as some other foolishness that they put out there. But we're going to deal with it. We're going to talk a little bit about it and the new dynamic and the new paradigm of movies and television as it is today, as to why our people are so, we take it so seriously. But first, let me open up in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared mercifully to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, to be right and exact, down to the modern times, and congruent with the Holy Quran, where it says in Surah 16 and 36 that certainly a messenger would be raised for every nation, not some nations, not a couple of nations, but every nation, and I would know nothing of Master Fard Muhammad or the most honorable Elijah Muhammad if it were not for this beautiful man right here. I'm speaking of none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and in those three great names, I greet you in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. All praises due to Allah, family. Shout out to everybody chiming in. I see you, Brother Hakeem, Sister Bernadette, Brother Jerome. We're going to get right into this because I just felt like this was a topic that needed to be dealt with, considering the fact that I always see a very a very serious undertone every time a new movie is released, every time a TV show is released. And it got me to thinking, I've touched on this before, but today, if it be the will of Allah, I'm gonna touch a little bit harder, and I might hurt some feelings. So if you're easily offended, please stay tuned, because you need to get that up off of you. But anyway, let me go ahead and point out, as always, that this is brought to you by NationTownStore.com. That is the economy of Nationtown TV, and Nationtown TV is the communication. Shout out to everybody that supports NationTownStore.com. Make sure you go to YouTube. Make sure you go to YouTube. Make sure you view our videos on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, because we actually put coupon codes, promo codes, so you can save money and get other deals on NationTownStore.com. We put it in the description of the video on YouTube. That's exclusively for our YouTube viewers. So go to YouTube and take advantage of that. And of course, brought to you by DoForSelf.net, an online learning annex. We have a huge update coming soon to that, but we talk about everything from stealing away, meaning going independent, leaving your day job, the proper way to do it, as well as an introduction to cryptocurrency. And it's 100% free, so check that out. But again, shout out to everybody chiming in. Please hit us with your questions and comments. I see your sister Katima. She said Gil Scott Heron. We're gonna talk about Gil. We go dig in on Gil a little bit. That wonderful freedom fighter, poet, and musician, where that term is coined from, where he said, there's actually a whole track dedicated to it, where he said that the revolution would not be televised. Now, why did I decide to go that route, dealing with these two particular films that were released over the weekend, over the past week or whatever? Because these two films, they caused the uproar for a couple of different reasons. American Skin caused an uproar because, first of all, it's got a very interesting premise. First of all, it is a fictional telling of a brother played by Nate Parker, whose son is murdered by the police here in Los Angeles, and the uprising that follows it. And then he goes a very unique route, a very unique, vengeful route in the movie. But the uproar is mostly revolving around how things turned out, how the movie actually ends. I guess I could say spoiler alert, but don't worry, it ain't gonna be too much of a spoiler. But I'm gonna deal with the psychology of it, as we like to do on Nationtown TV. And then there was some other movie that depicted Malcolm X, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Muhammad Ali in their meeting in Miami. I'm not even going to say the name because I don't want to give it any more press than I need to. But these two movies kicked up a lot of dust. And a lot of people, my woke brothers and sisters, my brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam, had a lot to say about it. So we're going to deal with it. We're going to touch on it a little bit. And let's jump right into it. I don't plan on being long, family, but I do plan on being strong. But please hit us up with your questions and comments. Get them in quick because once I'm out of here, I'm out of here. But let's deal with one fact. This is why we take movies. I'm gonna deal with the psychology as to why we take movies and TV so seriously now. Because you would think, damn man, why do people argue about the way a movie ended or argue about how accurate a particular movie dealing with our people, dealing with our history. I'm speaking of Aboriginal people, particularly the black man in North America, the Hells in North America. Why do we take it so serious? Well, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. There's a very clear reason why we take it so serious. Our enemy, initially, when we came off of the boats from Africa, they initially understood that all the Aboriginal people, our native brothers and sisters, our so-called Hispanic, or better yet, Chicano people, and the Africans that were stolen from Africa and brought here to the Western Hemisphere to be chattel slaves, it was pretty obvious to our enemy right off top that we were and are a extremely passionate and spiritual people. He knew right off top that we were an extremely intelligent people. We're the people of God. He didn't teach us how to build a civilization. America was built by the black man. He didn't teach Benjamin Banneker how to design the Mall on Washington. He didn't have to teach us that. He didn't have to teach us how to build, teach us how to do certain things. The only thing he really gave us an insight on was teaching us his world and his way of things and his language. But he knew that we were intelligent and he knew that we had a deeply spiritual connection to God. So in order to break us into slaves, in order to break the Native American man into just a dweller of reservations, in order to break the so-called brown man, he had to come in that straight path. He had to come in the path of education and religion. And he did that. Oh, yeah, brothers and sisters, he did that. In fact, he did it so well that fast forward to today, the typical Aboriginal man or woman, and we kind of downplaying both religion and education. Our young people are not paying attention in schools. We're skipping school. We're dropping out of school. We're not buying into the whole go to college, get a good job and all of that. We're not buying into that. And then at the same time, there's never been more self-proclaimed atheists, so-called atheists in the black community. Because we ain't buying the church thing no more. A lot of us don't even want to go to the mosque, don't want to go anything that got to do with a higher power, a higher supreme, and unless we talking some kind of broad and and silly kind of spirituality, or we just sit up and meditate for 15 minutes and then think we connected to God or whatever. But the whole religion track and the educational track, our enemy burned that out. He exhausted that. He exhausted that, and he did such a wickedly good job at exhausting that. You look around our communities and you see the remnants of that. So now he's ran us out the church. He ran us out the schools. So now what? Where are we now? Now our new religion are things like drugs and entertainment, the music, and now so more than ever, movies and TV shows. There has never in the history of the world been so much content, thanks to the internet, thanks to platforms like YouTube and even Facebook and Netflix, Amazon. There's never been more movies, more TV shows being produced ever. Remember, there used to be just 3 television networks and like 4 or 5 movie studios. Now you can't even count the networks anymore. And each network has several TV shows and movies. And now when they release a TV show, the TV show, they don't just release it. Remember when you had to wait till next week to see the next episode? Now they got something called binge watching, where you can watch a 12, 15 episode season all in one day if you got 12 to 15 hours to burn. And since the Aboriginal man is the last hired in the first fight, especially considering this quarantine and COVID-19 situation, black folks got 12 to 15 hours to burn every day. Every day. So after we burn that poison and mechanized weed, after we burn that up, after we light that up, then we sit up and we watch a TV show or we watch a movie all the way through. So now, essentially, movies and TV is the new religion for black people. That's why we take it so serious. I know. Some of y'all not gonna like that. Because we have gotten used to the last 10, 15, 20 years making fun of our grandmothers and our church going family, because they go to church and you know and they do their thing at church, and they hooting and hollering and they looking for this sky daddy. They praying for this sky daddy. They praying for this mystery God. Nobody exposed the mystery God more so than the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. There's never been a greater exposure of the mystery God. So, with that mystery God being exposed many years ago, you now have a situation where our people are really, it's comical to us. It's a joke to us when we look at our brothers and sisters and how they operate in the church and hooting and hollering and dancing around, catching the Holy Ghost. And these are, and we look at these things and we say, oh man, look at these fools. And then we put our money in the collection plate when it passes by every 15 minutes. But the thing is, we shouldn't be laughing so hard, because all we've really done as a people is that we went from looking to the sky for God and salvation to looking toward the silver screen for God and salvation. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but now the new church, one of the new churches, is the theater. This is why we take it so serious. This is why it's such a serious thing to us. We go to a movie about anything black and we want to see our salvation. We want to see our fantasies, the things that we want to see in our community. Now, it's so much easier to just pay for a $10 ticket, pay for some $30 popcorn, $15 box of candy, and sit down, not do anything for a couple of hours of Netflix and chill and watch your salvation played out in front of you. This beautiful depiction of our people played out in front of you of Wakanda, salvation, strength, power. We want to see that on a screen. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. We all want to see ourselves. Every time you take a photograph of yourself and you're in a crowd of people, when somebody shows you the picture, the first thing you do is you look for yourself. There used to be a little section in the back. I think it's still back there because they still need it. A section in the back of Jet magazine that would show you all the movies and TV shows that are coming out that week that would have black people in it. Or major, now I think they just tell you the major, if Denzel is going to be on something or something, Halle Berry, because like I said, there's so much content now, they would lose count. You got people like Tyler Perry, who has like 40 TV shows on TV right now. So it would be kind of hard for Jet Magazine to do that. They would have to do a whole Jet Magazine. But we like to see ourselves, and that's not a problem. The only problem is when we take it to the point where we have to see ourselves. That's the only way we see ourselves. and our salvation. That's the only way we see ourselves doing something positive, doing something powerful, doing something strong. We wait. I mean, how many of you have heard the terminology, either saw it on social media or heard somebody say, man, they need to make a movie about fill in the blank. Black Wall Street, Mansa Musa, Hannibal. They need to make a movie about. Why? Why do they need to make a movie about it when they have books already written about it? Oh, well, I just want to see it played out. I understand. But we don't talk about it like, in passing, like, oh, man, that'd be cool if they made a movie about that. Oh, well. No, we say it with passion. Oh, man, they got to make a movie about. Because, again, we've been regulated. The new church is the movie theater or Netflix. That's the new place where we get. Because here's the thing about church. This is why, first of all, we're automatically extremely spiritual people, because that's just in our blood, because we are the direct descendants of God. Take it or let it alone. But then chattel slavery and the sojourn here in the West really doubled down on that, because when you're working from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, you're getting the skin whipped off your back. Your woman is getting raped repeatedly. Your children are being worked from the moment they learn how to walk and talk. You're getting traded like NBA players and NFL players. You're getting traded from one plantation to another. You might have 2 or 3 children on the plantation. And, if the slave master starts to struggle financially, he'll trade off your children and you'll never see them again. So you had us living through this horror movie called chattel slavery for hundreds of years. And when they introduced us to Christianity and they allowed us to have these little church services, and we put Jesus, when we lost our natural religion, our original understanding of God, and they replaced it with this white Jesus, and they replaced it with this phony spirituality of catching the Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues and all of that, which was originally speaking in Arabic. We leaned on that. We medicated ourselves through that. That's why I draw a line when I get to, if I talk about that, because I understand why our ancestors went the Christianity route and the Holy Ghost route and that. I understand they self-medicated, just like you can't put the blunt down, you can't stop blowing, you can't stop smoking. You're medicating yourself. At least that's what you tell yourself. And that's how they medicate. The false promise of there's a heaven with streets paved in gold, milk and honey in the sky. And when you done with all these years of busting your behind for this massa, you're going to get all of that in the sky. So they made it just a little bit easier for you to bear all of those horrors I just talked about. And now we use media and entertainment in the same fashion. It makes it a little bit better to go to work Monday morning and have this 25-year-old caveman telling you what to do, and you more educated than him, and you can do his job better than him. But since he's Caucasian, he's your boss or she's your boss. It makes it a little bit easier to come home from that if you come home and you sit down and you watch Wakanda. Oh. Now, you should be motivated to go and build or join on to your own Wakanda, but they make sure that the image that they put on these movies is just enough to medicate you without motivating you. And we're going to touch on that in a minute. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in. I see you, Sister Linda. Wa alaikum salam. Brother Corey, wa alaikum salam. And like I said, I don't plan on being long, but I will be strong. Again, make sure y'all show love. Hit us up on YouTube as well as Cash App. Show us some love on Cash App, man. We are 100% independent black platform, Nation Town TV. Just go on Cash App. whether it's $1 or $1,000, you can go ahead and give us that whole. You don't need that little funky $600 from your stimmy. Go ahead and drop that stimmy on us. Show Nation Town some love. But moving along. Now, the interesting thing about the church and the religion switching from the actual church to the movie, and I'm gonna try to make this as clear as possible. Many of you have heard me make this comparison before, but it's a comparison that's worth repeating. For those who don't think, no, we it ain't no religion to us. It ain't no. Well, okay, let's look at this. Let's deal with it. Let's just like the messenger used to say, just reason with me. And I'm by no means defending the grade of Christianity that was given to us by a slave master. But when you get a wokester, a woke brother or sister, so-called conscious woke brother or sister talking about Christianity as we know it today, it's a couple of things that they throw up. And I agree with many of these things because it's really actual fact. They point out that, oh man, Christianity is tainted. It's man-made. You got a white Jesus. I don't recognize that white Jesus. I ain't with all that. We don't need that. I feel you. I understand. But follow that brother or that sister around for a minute. Just pay attention to whether they're somebody you just see on social media or somebody you know personally. If you know them personally, follow them around for a couple of days or follow their post for a couple of days. Because I guarantee you they're going to mention one other thing. After they done drag Christianity all through the dirt, man-made religion, white Jesus, all that. Okay. Follow them around and you're going to hear them mention two pills, the red pill and the blue pill. Because there's a love affair in the so-called conscious community between the conscious community and this right here. One of the biggest hits of the early 2000s, late 90s, The Matrix. When Negroes talk about The Matrix, they don't talk about it like it was just a movie. They talk about it like it is scripture. And if you talk negatively about The Matrix, they will react just like your grandma will react when you get to talking about take that picture of white Jesus down off the wall. No, man, The Matrix is real, man. You just got to understand because you got the red pill and the blue. Yeah. But look at the movie poster right there. If you really pay attention to The Matrix, it has the almost identical story of Jesus. And the Jesus in this case is a white boy, Keanu Reeves. Now there's a myth out there that they use to try to defend it. But it was really made by a black woman. The lie detector test determined that is an exaggeration. Not a lie, but an exaggeration. There was a sister who wrote a treatment. A treatment is a small summary. It was about 5 or 6 pages. The average movie script for a whole movie, however long the movie is, each page correlates with each minute. So if it's a 2-hour movie, the script was probably about 120 pages because that's 60 times 2. So she wrote a 3 or 4 page summary, an idea. First of all, you can't copyright an idea. But she made it a summary of that and allegedly Terminator and a couple other movies. And she claimed that she submitted it to the Wachowski brothers. These are 2 Jewish individuals who went on to write, produce, and direct the Matrix series. And I understand that they may be making a 4th version. And she claims that they took her idea and stole it and then 20 years later made the movie and made millions off of it. There's an actual erroneous rumor that she won the case. that is false. She lost that case, but she also sued her own lawyer who made a bunch of false promises to her that she would win the case and all of this. So she sued him and she won that case. But she lost the case to the Wachowski brothers and the producers in the studio that made The Matrix. But she actually did not fully write anything. She claims she gave them the idea, the scenes that you love so much, the lines that you love so much, the action scenes, the step by step, minute to minute things about the Matrix that you love so much was produced, written, and directed by the Wachowski brothers. And I'm saying brothers with quotations for a reason. And anybody will tell you, even if your name is Steven Spielberg, it's hard to get a movie from the idea stage to the script stage and then to the release and production, because we're talking about millions upon millions of dollars. At the time The Matrix was made, it was one of the most expensive movies ever made. In fact, for the sequel, they created an entire highway just to shoot the highway scenes. I remember that. And then the city of Los Angeles turned around and used that highway and made it a real highway, but it was built for the movie. So very expensive. So it's very hard to get movies made, no matter who you are, no matter where the idea came from. So whoever gets the movie made, they get credit for it. That's why you think American Skin is a Spike Lee movie. It's not. It's written and directed by Nate Parker, but it's executive produced by Spike Lee. So it was Spike Lee's name and push behind it that finally got the movie made. So you can't downplay the producers and the people who fleshed out the actual script of a movie. Now, why am I going into this? Not to take any credit from this system, but just to show our people that, listen, that movie is not ours. First of all, look at it. Look at it. What is Keanu Reeves? Now let's go to these Wachowski brothers. First of all, they are both Ashkenazi Jews. You can tell by their name. That's an Eastern European Jewish name, Wachowski. But the interesting thing is the first run of the first installment was The Matrix that you see right there. When they did that, they were the Wachowski brothers. By the time they did the third one, which I think was Revolutions, Matrix Revolutions, pun intended, they were the Wachowski sisters. So here you are putting all your pride and all your knowledge behind this movie as if it was scripture, but you reject religion because you think it's man-made. Oh, God didn't write no Bible or no Quran. Oh, it's man-made. But then you so passionate about this clearly fictional man-made movie that was brought to you by two transvestites, Jewish transvestites. That's what they used to look at the top. That's what they used to look like at the top. That's what they look like now at the bottom. Dead serious. Dead serious. Shout out to everybody chiming in. I know it stings. I know it does. I know it does. Because you got the truth, and then you got the internet. It's a lot of foolishness on the internet, and we just got to bust it up real quick. So let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. And there's another reason why I have to remind our people that the revolution will not be televised and it will not be filmed. And the reason being that that's so important is because I always bring this up, and I got to bring it up again. Pay attention to the dichotomy between two movies that were released a few years ago. Because let's go back to the religion argument. The religion argument is this: I'm not religious because that's a man-made religion. It ain't our real religion. Our real religion is this. Our real religion is that. It's chematology. It's Islam. It's this. It's just spirituality. It's just sitting up meditating with some, by burning some sage. It's this, it's that, it's the third. That's not the real thing. Well, let's look at something that happened a few years ago. A few years ago, there were two very monumental movies that were released. Very monumental. Two very good movies. These two movies right here. One, the first one of the two, which is the last time we saw Nate Parker. Birth of a Nation, which was the story of the black hero, the real life black hero by the name of Nathaniel Turner, otherwise known as Nat Turner. And then the other movie that was released later was Black Panther. Birth of a Nation, Black Panther. Black Panther, by the grace of Almighty God, Allah, grossed $1 billion, over $1 billion at the box office. Now that's a beautiful thing because of the fact that it was directed by a young brother. It shot off the careers of several young black actors. May Allah be pleased with our brother Chadwick Boseman. And they get residuals on that. And that young brother that directed and produced it, he's going to get residuals on that. So I'm happy for him. And y'all know how we deal with black economics on Nation Town. So I can't hate on that. But Birth of a Nation made a paltry $40 million. Real black superhero. Now let me give it its justice. Real black superhero, written and directed by a black man. Fake black superhero, brought to you by a Ashkenazi Jew. I hate to, man. I know I'm vilifying myself, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But Stan Lee, the father of Marvel Comics, I know that name doesn't sound Jewish. That's because that's not his name. I introduced y'all to Ralph Lifshitz a few weeks ago. That's the real name of Ralph Lauren. Stan Lee's real name is Stan Lieberman. When he first got in the industry, he cut it down to Lieber. And then he cut it even further down to Lee. The reason being is because a lot of Jews, first of all, a lot of them, when they came here, they really anglicized their names so they wouldn't be easily noticeable as being Ashkenazi Jews. And believe it or not, the early days of Hollywood, the Jews didn't run Hollywood. They were doing the writing and they were involved in it, but they didn't run it. They were essentially at the early years. Remember, movies are only about a little over 100 years old. It's not an old profession. It's not an old industry. But the early days of the movie industry, Jews were in the same position then where black people are in the industry now. There were only a couple of real heavyweights, just like now we only got a couple of real heavyweights, like Tyler Perry and a couple of others. But what they did is that they used unity, they unified. They came together and they not only built their own studios, but they ended up commandeering, through their unity, commandeering some of the same studios that didn't even want to employ them. Walt Disney, which is the main financier behind Black Panther and the Marvel line, Walt Disney, the man, was accused of being an anti-Semite. Many people say that he hated Jews. Now, here in Los Angeles, you go to Burbank, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, and you go to ABC Disney Studios, all of the bosses there are Jewish. So fake superhero, brought to you by the Ashkenazi Jew. Real superhero who was brought to you by God, but then the movie was written and produced by a black man, and the black man is God. But which one did we choose? Which one did we flock to the movie theater in our brand new dashiki, still got the folding wrinkles in it, Made in China tag hanging off of it. Brought the whole family. Why didn't you bring your whole family to see Nat Turner? Oh, that's too much for my little son to understand. Really? Why? You talking about the same little son that you pray makes it home in one piece every day? Because it's hunting season on young black men, not only by the police and by the white man, but by our own people. That same, you mean to tell me that he can't handle what Nat Turner did, but he'll turn on the television and he'll see what's going on in Washington, D.C. He'll see George Zimmerman. He'll see what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, but he can't handle Nat Turner. Why do we take our family and our children and everything to Black Panther and not Birth of a Nation? That's something we got to deal with because it's become the new opiate of the people. The movies and the TV is the opiate of the people. We just watch it to medicate our pain. But I'm telling you, that's insufficient. Let's keep it going. Now, why did I go to the point of calling this video that the revolution cannot be televised or filmed? That, of course, as our sister pointed out in the comments, was motivated and brought, of course, by Gil Scott-Heron, legendary artist, poet, freedom fighter. May Allah be pleased. He has a very world-renowned project called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Now, a lot of people say that, and you hear that. A lot of you have heard that and didn't even know who Gil Scott-Heron was. If somebody said Gil Scott-Heron, you would think they're talking about Jill Scott, the singer, who was named after Gil Scott-Heron. But here's his explanation for what that means. Brother Gil says the first change that takes place is in your mind. You have to change your mind before you change the way you live and the way you move. So when we said that the revolution will not be televised, we're saying that the thing that's going to change people is something that no one will ever be able to capture on film. Let me read that again for my brother. When we said that the revolution will not be televised, we're saying that the thing that's going to change people is something that no one will ever be able to capture on film. It'll just be something you see, and all of a sudden you realize I'm on the wrong page, or I'm on the right page, but I'm on the wrong note. Gil Scott-Heron. So that's why we called it that. That's why he said that the revolution will not be televised, because Elon Musk might be working on it. Bill Gates might be working on it. Jeff Bezos might be working on it. George Soros might be working on it. But as of today, there is no camera you can put in the thoughts of a human being. And honestly, if you put a camera in the thoughts of the typical black man and woman, you would see Wakanda, but you would not see Nat Turner. You would not see Harriet Tubman. You would see fantasy. You would see foolishness, but you would not see revolution. Shout out to everybody chiming in. All praises due to Allah. I see you, Sister Antisha. She says, wow. All praises due to Allah. Absolutely. Wow. Wow. But let's talk about these two movies before we get up out of here. We won't be on long, maybe another 10, 15 minutes. Now, the movie, it was two movies, as I said, that caused the uproar. American Skin, and then that other movie about Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and all that kind of stuff. Now, with American Skin, the issue was the ending. Because I gotta say, it's a very well done movie. I'm a Nate Parker fan, man. Straight up. I think he's found his calling as a filmmaker. He started off strictly as an actor. I don't know if he just decided to make that change so he could. And it's really brilliant, low key, because you don't have to You don't have to audition when you're the director, the writer, and the producer. He did for self. He's doing for self. He made both of these movies independently, and then major producers and studios picked it up. That's how Tyler Perry started. That's how Spike Lee started. That's how Oliver Stone started. That's how George Lucas of Star Wars started. That's really the most profitable and most powerful way to start a career as a filmmaker, is to make the movie on your own dime first, scrape up the money yourself first, and then put it out there, and then the studios will jump all over and pay you whatever you want for the rights to distribute it all over the world. So Nate Parker made this movie, and it's a powerful movie. It'll get your adrenaline rushing. But what people are kind of amped up about is the ending. I'm not going to necessarily tell you what happened in the end, but I will tell you this about the ending. So it is a little bit of a spoiler alert. He basically took matters, this character whose son was murdered by the police, he took matters into his own hand, kidnapped the police LAPD captain, took them to a precinct, and then he put on a mock trial. But it wasn't a mock trial, it was a trial. Since he knew he couldn't get justice in America's so-called justice system or injustice system, he took it to trial himself. With, of course, murder has always been punishable by what? Death. So people were a little upset with how the movie ended, because we got bloodthirsty when we watched it. Like I said, all of our thoughts and imaginations and fantasies and everything is, we all wait on Hollywood to feed it to us. We don't even think, most of us don't even think it's a reality to go out and get it ourselves. So even our bloodthirst, we want to see it on TV and movies. So a lot of us saw it. I got to say, there was a little bit in me that wanted to see him really take it to these crackers. And people didn't like how it actually turned out. And it got me to thinking about this particular topic. And the reason being is that as black people, we have I'm going to tell you, speaking of movies, the saddest love story ever told. I mean, the saddest, the most tragic love story ever told is the love story between the black man and white supremacy. We are in love with them. And they've done nothing but scorn us for 400 years. Now, the scripture says, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So we've taken on the mentality of a scorned woman. Y'all seen Waiting to Exhale. Y'all saw what our sister Angela Bassett did. Took all that brother's belongings, put it in his Benz, set the whole Benz on fire. She didn't do that because she didn't like him. She did that because she loved him. So many of us, we got it in our heart, and we say, oh, I want to do this to the black man. I want to hurt. I want to do this to the white man. I want to do this. I want to do it. Because we really just want him to acknowledge us and to love us. And since he doesn't, a lot of us, we just want to see. You know, it's almost like revolution porn. We just want to see him get his. As if it's going to change anything if this movie puts it out there and has this man going around killing everybody. People complained with Birth of a Nation that the scenes of him, of Nat Turner going plantation to plantation killing white slave masters wasn't graphic enough. Again, we want to live out our fantasies on the silver screen. We went from living out our fantasies in the sky to the screen. So it's that angry Negro approach to it. So a lot of people got upset about it. I actually like the ending. I'm not going to give away the ending for those who haven't seen it yet, but I like the ending because it was the most realistic ending. The character that Nate Parker played, that's the approach that the average typical Negro would have taken. Out of love, angst, and scorn, they would have did that. And then at the end, the very end, what ended up happening at the very, very end, That's a beautiful way to end that movie because it basically proved and showed that no matter what we do, it is a futile endeavor to try to reason with your open enemy. Imagine screaming at a pig, trying to convince that pig of his own nature. You mad at this pig, screaming at a pig, trying to convince him that his ass is pork. He know what he is. You ain't telling him something new. And no matter how long you scream at that pig, he ain't gonna bark like a dog, even though he's part dog. He ain't gonna meow like a cat, even though he's part cat. And he ain't gonna crawl in a hole like a rat, even though he's part rat. He knows he's a pig. So sitting up there telling him what he is ain't gonna help him at all. But see, when you in love with somebody, you never give up on reasoning with them. You want to sit down and talk to them. You go to counseling. You do things like, because when you're in love with somebody, you'll even hurt them and do terrible. A lot of the instances where men have killed women in relationships, they call it a crime of passion. A lot of us want to see crimes of passion on television. Shout out to everybody chiming in. We ain't gonna be on long, much longer, another 10 minutes. But for those who are still upset about the ending of this movie, I want to get a little historical with you. I ain't gonna go too far back in history. Because some people will argue with me right now and say, well, Brother Landon, the reason why we want to see certain things on the TV and on the movies, because, a child might see a movie, and that might motivate them to change the world. All right. Like, the Cosby Show might have motivated black people to acquire wealth, even though the overall wealth condition of black people today is no better than it was in the mid 80s when the Cosby Show was introduced. Are there more black people going to college? Yeah. More black people trying to be doctors and lawyers? Yeah. But overall, our wealth hasn't changed. Because the real change, like Gil Scott said, is not really in the mind. We're still in love with our enemy. But to those who stand on that and say, well, I want to see a certain kind of black movie because it motivates me. Okay. Well, long before Tyler Perry, long before Nate Parker, long before Black Panther, long before all of that, there was an era of film called blaxploitation films. And some of y'all grew up during that time. I watched blaxploitation films in the 80s and 90s, 10, 20 years after they came out. Some of y'all grew up. Some of y'all remember going to the movies and watching Jim Kelly and Shaft and all them, Superfly and all that. But when you watch, one of the cool things about those movies, they always stuck it to the man. There were scenes where they would just be slapping around white people, shooting white people, calling white people honky to their face. All the things we want to see in the movies today, they was doing it back in the blaxploitation days. In fact, I can show you better than I can tell you. Here's a clip from a movie called Three the Hard Way. This is Jim Kelly. He's the black Bruce Lee. And I mean, this brother, it's like he's straight out of a comic book. He used to whoop Peckerwoods left and right. And I mean, he used to make it look so cool. I mean, a whole police force whooping that behind, going in. I mean, didn't even let him get out the car. Look, bah, step over him. Come on, off the hood. Come on. They got a call for backup. They don't want none of this. Look, just putting it down. Putting it down. And we love this, and black folks used to flock to see this. Because just like you might say, it made us feel good. This was in the early to mid 70s. This was right after the civil rights movement. This was right after a generation of growing up and seeing, all those videos. We just passed Dr. King's commemoration. Those civil rights videos of dogs being sicked on civil rights protesters and having eggs and drinks thrown at them on sit-ins and strange fruit. The same generation that grew up seeing that on television, that's the generation that gave us black exploitation. So again, they didn't really start a real revolution. They just put it on the screen. Now, did that motivate us? Because look what happened right after the black exploitation era. Immediately following the black exploitation era was the crack cocaine era. Immediately following the black exploitation era was when gang violence began to erupt in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago. So-called black on black crime. So if your theory is true to those who think, oh, if we see enough Wakandas, that'll make us want to have a, why didn't that work with black exploitation? Because I still ain't seen somebody in public whooping up on the police quite like Jim Kelly did. Now, and I'm not advocating violence, and we're going to talk about that before we get out of here. But instead, we actually went in on each other immediately after that era. We fell for the white man's tricks immediately after that era. So the idea that if we just watch enough movies of us winning, and enough movies of us doing big things and sticking it to the man, that'll change it. No, not quite. What movies did Malcolm X grow up watching? What movies did Louis X, now known as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what movies did he grow up watching that motivated him to be the almost 70 years of freedom fight? There was no movie. But he was and is a fantastic student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was and he is a student. He is studious. He knows the actual nature of the black man, and he didn't even get a chance to see that on a movie. By the time Roots came out, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was already the national representative of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and was already changing the streets of Harlem, New York as the minister at Mosque number 7 or Temple number 7. So this idea that you need a movie, what movie did Dr. King watch that made him say, oh yeah, that's the kind of, what, the first Birth of a Nation? Birth of a Nation, the Nat Turner story, was the second movie in movie history that used that name. There was another movie, which was one of the first movies, called Birth of a Nation, which was actually a Ku Klux Klan propaganda film. And those were the kind of films that our best and brightest leaders had to grow up seeing. So this idea that we need movies and certain kind of entertainment to motivate us is foolish. The revolution will not be televised. It will not be filmed. Now, again, dealing with that situation with American Skin, before we move on to that Miami movie, and we ain't gonna be on that long at all. I noticed a lot of believers upset with the end of American Skin. So that motivated me to go into our teachings. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in what I call the Black Man's Bible, Message to the Black Man. He said on page 315 the following words. And he's dealing with violence and the claim that the Muslims are violent. And it goes as follows. In order to clarify some of the confusion surrounding Muslim outlooks and objectives, I will confront the rumors and false allegations of Muslim threats of violence with a direct statement which answers the implied question, will the black Muslims attack America, in a direct and forthright manner. These are some statements I gave in an interview in the New York Herald Tribune newspaper on hate and violence. This is the messenger. This is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad talking. We are not going to take part in any violence whatsoever. We're not going to do anything other than what we are doing. That is trying to deliver the truth to our people and teach them that they are supposed to be Muslims And that means that they are supposed to be righteous people and that we have shed all thirst that pertains to wickedness. We've shed that. That's behind us. Now, in the Holy Quran, we fight with those that fight with us. But we are never to be the aggressors. Some of us want to have a terrorist mentality because this is how, and this is why Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace be upon him, he said in a hadith in certain words. He didn't say it in these exact words, but he said in certain words that 3 generations after him would not be of him. And in saying that, it's pretty clear because those so-called Muslim extremists in the Middle East who, quote unquote, become terrorists, they take that part of the Quran that says we fight with those that fight with us as meaning that if I'm upset or if I'm oppressed or if somebody does something bad to me, I can do bad to anybody. I can blow up a whole bus, a whole airplane. Whoever gets killed gets killed. Charge it to the game because the Quran told me I can do that. No. The Quran says fight with those who fight with you. If you blow up that bus and 10 little girls die, well, those 10 little girls fighting with you? So some of us got this mentality that, hey, I got a right to go and murder this white man and do this to white people because they did something to me. They killed my son. No. And notice that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said right there, page 315, a message to the black man, keep on doing what we're doing. What do he mean? What are we doing? He's talking about separating, building your own infrastructure, your own schools, own businesses, fulfilling your own needs in this life, in real life, not on no TV screen, not on no movie screen. In real life, they were taking it to the man by going away from the man. That's how you take it to the man. Take it away from him. That's the proper way to take it to the man and stop calling him the man. He is not the man. When you put the in front of anything, that is the definite article. That's something that came out of that blaxploitation era that we need to take out of our vernacular. He is not the man. He is barely a man. But we had that mentality, and many of us still do. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan also pointed out that sometimes when Birth of a Nation came out, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told the believers, be careful. Because what are they trying to spark? What are they trying to get us to do? Are they trying to get some crazy brother to think, oh, okay, that's what Nat Turner did? All right, well, let me get my machete and let me go to that job that just fired me and cut 5 or 6 people's heads off. And then they can say, oh, these niggas are crazy. And then they can bulldoze through any of our communities and claim that, oh, we had Nat Turner types there. So that they use that excuse with the movement in Philadelphia when they burned down a whole community. One of them allegedly did something violent, did something wrong, and they said, oh, that justified us burning down their whole community. See, we got to think strategically. The revolution got to be in our mind, like Gil Scott-Heron said. But doubling down on that whole protesting thing, because we think protesting, to this day, 2021, we think protesting is the end-all and be-all of revolution. Crying to your enemy, begging. There are many ways to beg. Think about a child, a teenager, a preteen growing up in their parents' house. Now, when they were a baby, they begged, they cried, mama, please, mama, mama, mama. But as they got older, that same plea, that same crying changed. It got harder and tougher. Man, I hate it here. I can't wait to get up out of here. Y'all don't let me do nothing. Now, in the black household, we had to be careful. Usually we go to our room and try to slam the door, and then we say all of that to ourselves. And that's essentially what protesting is. Protesting, as we mentioned in the previous episode, is also a prayer. You're literally praying, Black Lives Matter. Ungawa, we want black power. Wait a minute, stop right there. You want black power? And you telling the white man that? If I want a Big Mac, If I want a Big Mac, where do I protest? McDonald's. If I want the new Jordans, where do I protest? If I want I gotta go to a Foot Locker. I gotta go to a Champ Sports. I gotta go somewhere, a Nike store. I gotta go where they provide that. So when you go to white people and say, we want justice, we want black power, Black Lives Matter, you are chanting that to somebody as if they are the only ones that can provide that. I got a news flash for my brothers and sisters. The Caucasian and his system cannot and would not grant you justice, grant meaning to your life or value to your life, and they damn sure can't give. A white man can never provide black power. Ever. So think about that the next time you watch any movie. Pay attention to the credits. As soon as you see Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Marvel, Disney, that nullifies black power coming out after those credits. I don't care how good the movie is. If it's entertaining, it's entertaining. But don't expect no black power to come up out of there. They don't have it to give you. We want justice. They don't have it to give you. Well, they call it the justice system. Okay, they lied to you. They lied to you a lot. They don't have it to give to you. But let's listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on this very topic before we get up out of here. And then I'm going to close out with one last point.
And to her that God demands of you and me. What does God demand of us? God does not demand that we picket white people to build us a school. God don't demand for us as men to pick up a picket sign and go downtown and say, we want justice. If we are men, we'll get our heads together and take justice. We'll give ourselves justice. God does not ask a man to ask another man for freedom. God gives us the right to be free, and any man that want to be free, he'll earn his freedom by his own blood and sweat.
There it is. Get it yourself. Build it yourself. As long as we take the most wicked man that has ever walked this earth and look at him as the broker of peace, justice, and power, he is not the grantor of any of those things. We are. And that's why he's powerful, because we give him that power. He got all the money. He does not have all the money. He has all of your money, and you give it to him. 98% of your discretionary income, but we ain't going to get into that. Not today. But let's close out with this, because I promised I was going to deal with this thing right here. Again, I ain't going to say the name, but this thing right here. But see, this movie, and shout out to our sister Regina King. This is the first time I've really seen her be used as a pawn, and really all our best talents in every industry, not just the entertainment industry, but every industry, at some point you use that as a pawn. Anybody that's watching this that's ever had a job, they used you as a pawn. One way or the other, they used you as a pawn. So let's not just put that on our entertainers. But with this movie, as well as other movies in the past, recent past or far past, there have been depictions of the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X and the situation that went down with Malcolm X that has angered a lot of black folks that know better, especially believers. I love this movie right here, Malcolm X. I love it. I call Malcolm X the Black Godfather, because it's arguably one of the best made movies by a black filmmaker. fictional in many ways, but so well made, a beautiful movie. It actually was one of the things that sparked my interest in the Nation of Islam, particularly one scene, and I gotta touch on this. There's a scene that, Spike actually got wrong, because the movie was supposed to be based on the autobiography of Malcolm X. But in the autobiography of Malcolm X, Malcolm said that when he was struggling to learn how to pray and to submit to Allah, in the autobiography, he said he saw a vision of Master Fard Muhammad. But in the movie, he saw a vision of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the scene was so majestic and so beautiful. It was like something from Star Wars. And you got to understand, I'm a child. I'm still watching Saturday morning cartoons at the time. And to see that, I was like, who is this black man with the whole universe on his forehead? They got Malcolm, they got Denzel on his knees. So it did the opposite effect. Even though they gave Spike Lee the 30 pieces of silver, $30 million, it did the opposite effect for me, just speaking for myself. But these movies have a habit of misrepresenting the Nation of Islam. And I understand that when brothers and sisters in the nation, or that are sympathizers of the nation, I was a sympathizer before I came in the ranks, so I understand. And we don't play about our nation. We don't play about the minister. We don't play about the messenger. Don't play about Master Fard Muhammad, and we shouldn't. But let me be clear about something to the believers and to the sympathizers. If they make a movie about dinosaurs, you can argue that either dinosaurs never existed, which I believe they never existed, or you can say, wait a minute, the Velociraptor didn't walk like that, the T-Rex didn't walk like that, the saber-toothed tiger didn't act like that. You can watch a movie about Mansa Musa. If they make a movie about Mansa Musa or Hannibal or some historic thing, or Marcus Garvey that's no longer around, you can argue about the actual depiction and how accurate it is or inaccurate it is. But to my brothers and sisters in the nation and to sympathizers, I got to remind you that the Nation of Islam is not a relic of the past. The Nation of Islam is very much alive and well. The farmland that the messenger bought has been recouped by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The mosques, the cities recouped. The ranks replenished. The businesses, you don't talk about them because you're waiting to see some big thing on your timeline on social media. The businesses are back there. Every mosque has a team of entrepreneurs. Every mosque study group filled with entrepreneurs. Do for self or suffer the consequences. We have a grocery line called Able. We have a staple goods project. We have our own entertainment platform. We have our own schools in every city. The Muhammad University of Islam. The Nation of Islam is not a relic, and it's not a fantasy. So when you go to the movies and you see something like flying cars or something, you can argue and say, oh, well, I don't think that could ever exist, or that it ever existed, and all of that. But the Nation of Islam ain't nothing to argue about. And if it is, then maybe that should be as FOI and MGT, that maybe the image that we putting out there in the streets and even on social media is not sufficient. Maybe we need to do a better job of showing our people who we are, so when they see foolishness on TV and movies, the people can call it out and say, nah, that ain't how the Muslims are. But when we try to treat our lifestyle like it's just a fraternity or sorority or a gang or just a hobby that we do in between niggerdom, see, then that gives the enemy room to play around with the reality of the messenger's work and the minister's work. But the truth of the matter is, we are very much in these streets. Let me show you something. Real quick, brothers and sisters, I'm still on. I just want to show you something real quick before we get up out of here. We are very much out here. We are very much out here showing love to our people. But we got to step it up. We got to make it hard for the enemy to come amongst us, either in person or on film, and create depictions of us that's other than ourselves. This is the real Nation of Islam. This is the reality of it. This is the real Wakanda. This is the reality of it. This is what you really have to see. This is how we really operate.
How you feel, brother?
Do you understand? This is us.
Cold.
We gotta push that hard line. We gotta show them now. In every way. On the streets.
March 27.
In every
on the east side. East of the 110.
We gotta do it. And then last but not least, family.
That's right.
If you really are upset about the depiction of us on film, then make sure you support our independent projects. Make sure you support things like NFA Studios. Make sure you, because I have it on, I understand that NFA Studios is actually preparing to do scripted content. And they're expanding the shows. This is all independent, black owned. Look at that. Do you see a white boy in there doing anything? This is NFA. Go to NFAstudios.com right now and subscribe. No matter how you feel about the nation, 100% black owned. Our own news, CNN. We got our own CNN. Our own reporters, modest female reporters. Our own cooking shows, how to eat to live. Showing our people the proper way to eat. Do you support this? You can donate and you can subscribe. We got our own 40 miles, our own documentaries to tell you the truth about the history of the Nation of Islam. That's my captain right there. We got real love, not that foolishness on reality shows. We got real reality shows dealing with relationships. Children's shows. Talk shows. Reza, my brother Reza with the facts. This is us. So if you really have a problem with our depiction, make sure that you're not only supporting but propagating the alternative. Make sure you're supporting and propagating the alternative. But with that said, family, I see you, Brother Tevis. All praises due to Allah. Brother Hakeem said, proud subscriber. Me too, dear brother. We got 2 accounts in our household, my wife and myself. But with that said, I'm going to leave y'all as I greeted y'all in the words of peace. We said in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum.
I was told to deliver this message.